Right. The reason why this is on YouTube at this minute is because I think Lawrence might be catching up with it there, and so will Roger. So we'll just see how this goes. I'm just going to go and get a drink. So Nina, Ellen, and Pat, you can talk about the latest cricket scores if you want.
Cricket?
I know nothing.
No, thank you.
We love cricket, we do.
Love playing it as a kid, but that's about it.
I was
Boring
actually
otherwise.
I was bowled over once. My God. Do you ever get those days where you can't find something?
All the time.
Right. Yes, the lime cordial can't be bad. Right, talk about something. You've got it. Yes.
Gary's asking how the wasps are.
Unfortunately, now we've got 2 wasps' nests.
You got 2?
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Does that one need moving as well?
It's not going to be good.
Oh.
Basically, the colony of wasps moved to where he moved them, right? But the other colony of wasps made a wasp nest in between the 2 pallets. So we are going to get started now. I don't think we're going to be joined by Lawrence, which is a bit of a shame. Was looking forward to seeing him. As I was looking forward to seeing you guys tonight as well. So we are going to get straight into it. I'm just going to do some tweaking stuff, and we're going to be looking at not a great number of prehistoric sites today in Cymru, Wales, but we will be looking at a tiny little section to sort of give you an idea how influential the archaeological evidence has been in regards to that context. So this is class number 2, and I'm going to put the time down. It's now 7:10. And we won't go too far over as we did last week because it was our first one. So I'm just getting one last thing sorted out in the background here, and this is not really going to be shared. It's just for some people who are actually into what we do. And maybe Lawrence might join us online. I'm not sure. He's very aware of YouTube and that type of technology. So Pat, if you see somebody clicking up on the screen, it'll probably be Lawrence if he's joining us. Okay. One last thing. So you know what we're doing, and that's that. So let's look at some of these images. Let's get straight into it. And I think we've got a good sort of speaker thing today. So if any of you wants to quickly sort of interrupt mildly, you can do. Now, this is a site that I was in and in today because I thought, do I do Trier Kerry? Well, I'm going to mention Trier Kerry at the end because that leads us into next week. So the images are actually these ones that we're doing today. And this is the first site that I'm just going to mention, and then we will look at it in a little bit of detail. So I thought earlier on, I thought the aim of these sessions is to demonstrate the importance of archaeology and how archaeological evidence sort of paints a picture that we can sort of get to grips with. And one thing that I've been saying a lot recently, it's in the archaeology where you find the facts. And one thing that YouTube wants me to do is sort of focus on that sort of mantra. So I've just had a message off Lawrence. So as we're in the class, I'll read out what Lawrence says if he says some expletives, then we'll. Carl, I've just got in from work, and so has my daughter. She has the tablet device that I normally use, but she's in the shower. What are the link details, please, Lawrence? Oh, God. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Technical detail, which should have been sorted out earlier on. So I'm going to need some link details. Hang on a minute. Sorry about this, folks. Let's get these link details over to him. I got to write in Zoom. You need. So that's the next thing, and then he's going to need the class number details. Has any of you guys got that available?
Yes.
What's the number, not the code to get in?
You want me to say it out loud, yeah?
Yeah, go on.
450.
Oh no, that's the password.
All right. The other code.
Yeah, the other code, yeah.
What, the HTTPS one?
Yeah, the number on the end.
Right, 885
885
182
182.
4863.
So that's repeat 885 182 4863. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right, okay, password. Can you yeah, it might be wise for you just to chuck the password over to me via the chat, if you could, please.
Right. How do I do that?
Well, no, chat as in sort of
Message.
MSN. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hold on.
Sorry about this, folks. This is supposed to be slow and easy to operate, but obviously, okay, it's not worked because Lawrence didn't join us last week, so I'll just type this in, and we'll carry on. Okay.
PM do then. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's just. She's talking to me, that little turkey. He's talking to me. He's squeaking. Go on.
Yeah, baby Baldrick, Gary.
Right. Okay. I go right. Let me know when you're waiting. Right, Pat, you're gonna have to wait out for him. Right, okay. So where was I? We've got a couple of people watching online, so hiya, just trying to deal with technical glitches. So what I was saying was that we're looking at just a small number of archaeological sites through these sessions to understand the importance of archaeological evidence across Cymru stroke Wales. And this is one said site. This is Pavelan Cave on the Gower. So we've got a little map this week with some of the sites on it, which is quite helpful, other than leaving you last week to find out where these places were. And hopefully you did. So Pavelan Cave, Goat Cave, Goat Hole Cave on the Gower. And we'll look at this, and I'll just tell you of the importance of archaeology and how actually, if the archaeology is done wrongly, how future generations can completely misinterpret the archaeological evidence. Pavelan Cave, Gower. So these, I'm not going to ask you to guess. I'm not going to ask you to guess about these teeth, but they look rather different. They got pterodontal disease, which is these teeth relate to Neanderthals from North Wales. So you can immediately see, so Pavelan Cave Pavlan Cave is where you get archaeological evidence for some of the oldest human remains that are in an articulate order, right? Not disarticulate, but articulate order ever found anywhere in Great Britain, right? Found on the Gower. So that's why they're included in this list today. Very small list, and the importance of the archaeology at this site, Pavlan Cave. And then Neanderthal evidence. A lot is said about Neanderthals. Now, Pont Newydd Cave in North Wales, Pavlan is probably in relevance of major discoveries in Britain in prehistory. It's probably wouldn't really link up there, but it does, because at this minute a lot is being said about Neanderthal evidence, on how important Neanderthal evidence is, and all those sort of links. So having Neanderthal remains in Wales is very important. So that's why this is on the list, and a little bit of a discussion about that as well, and how when the archaeology is done rightly, you can learn a lot more, as opposed to when the archaeology is done wrongly, you don't really understand what's going on. And I'll just tell you a fact about the archaeology found at Pavlan Cave. The guy who excavated it, Reverend Buckland, in 1823, lost a mammoth skull in his office. Moving on. This isn't in order, but we do. But this, we go to this a moment, and then we go to the other side. This is, we've got on the Gower cave art dating back 14,000 years plus, right? Cave art 14,000 years plus. And why this is a major important find in Welsh prehistory and British prehistory is it's the oldest cave art in Britain. That's why that's on the list. So we've got something in North Wales, and we've got two sites on the Gower. Oh, interesting. So then what I wanted to do to sort of give you sort of a sense of the enigmatic, and because what we did last week, we did a lot in the way of prehistory, when we were looking at sort of myths and legends associated with Cymru, Wales. And so, you know, like Tinkerswood Burial Chamber, very important site. And, you know, we went to Baclo the Garras, North Wales. And so this site on the Gower, the likes of Cathall Cave, yes, not Goathole Cave, Cathall Cave on the Gower, near Gower Heritage Park. I thought I'd check this on the list, right? So again, we'll look a little bit of this, and we'll look at tiny little bit about the controversy of this site, and all of these sites that we're looking at today. Other than Pont Newydd, I've been to, and I've fleshed the cud out with them all the time. And Pont Newydd, even though I've not been to that one, I've sort of intensely researched that. So we can't think about our landscape in this wonderful hallowed land of ours without mentioning Pentre Ifan, or Ifan, or depending on which way you want to say it, Pentre Ifan. And this site itself, for me, is enigmatic of chambers, and then burial chambers across our land, Cymru. And you know, one thing that we think about prehistory in our land is these types of chambers. So what we've done, we've leaped from early prehistory into prehistory from about 6,000 years ago. The other sites are beyond sort of 10,000 years ago. We massively leaped, and it's all to do with archaeological evidence. Archaeology, again, archaeological evidence, because for a long time, between roughly the likes of looking at Cathall Cave and roughly around 6,000 years, there are sites, there's lots of bits of archaeology, Mesolithic archaeology, but nothing that really stands out massively until you get to sort of the Neolithic period, when Neolithic, Megalithic, things that made standing flesh worthy and
Your sound's gone all weird, Carl.
and stone and that type of stuff. Is
Your sound's gone weird.
I can't hear you, Carl.
Your sound's all weird. And I can't hear it. You there, Carl?
Oh, it's disappeared.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Resetting, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Patchy is the co-host now.
Yeah.
So
There he is.
right, hiya.
Hi.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if you pressed a button, Pat.
No, I pressed nothing. What's the name?
I pressed the button. So there you go.
Okay.
So anyway, cracking on. And where are we?
Yeah, your sound went all crazy.
Did it? Oh, okay. Nothing wrong with that. So what we've got.
Ivan, we were.
Yeah, Pendraven. So so there we go. We got a little map there. And we've got Pont Newydd up there, the red one. And we've got another site that we're going to be looking at, a mystery site there. But it's not much of a mystery, but we'll go on to the images. It's a burial chamber. And that's not Barclay the Gareth, it's Bryn Celli the. So that's really enigmatic, and that's a sort of another chambered site. But Bryn Celli D is the epitome of how we sort of muck around with history and sort of alter it to make it the way that sort of history is meant to be told, when in fact just sort of showing us what the archaeology is about. So that's the green one on the left there on Anglesey. And then you go all the way down to there in Wales. That's Prehistoric. And there where you've got the other green one there, that's the site of Pavlan Cave. And for some strange reason, Pavlan Cave, Goat Hole Cave, for some strange reason, Google didn't want me to put the other one in there. So basically the one a bit further over, approximately over there, underneath the W, just going closer towards the coast, that is actually where we've got Castle Cave in Gower Heritage Park. Now I don't know if all of you have been to all of these sites, but it does help when you've been to sort of most of them, sort of get a story, get a little bit of a take on them. So first site that we're going to be looking at in more detail is this one. And, you know, we don't have many images of this simply because, and that goes on to Pont Newydd, simply because we're not really doing a massive expose on these sites. What we're trying to do is sort of give you a little bit of information to sort of go away and think, that's what Carl was on about. So Pavlan Cave itself could be said to be one of the earliest sites to be sort of brackets archaeologically close brackets antiquarian digging excavated thingamajigs, and this was in 1823. Actually, we think it was excavated in 1822, and the reason why we think it was excavated in 1822 is the archaeology is so odd and so strange that I believe that maybe some of that stuff may have actually been planted from another archaeological site. So what we do have, one thing is undeniable, is that the remains, and there's the remains there, there's the remains. So this is from the plan from 1823. Was once referred to as the Red Lady of Pavland, and referred to as the Red Lady of Pavland because the Red Lady of Pavland was actually covered with red ochre. But it's now believed that the Red Lady of Pavland is actually not a woman at all, is in fact a man. Now, what we do find, when they were actually excavating here, it was not done with proper modern scientific standards. And that meant that something may have been found over there, but they didn't really record it properly, and it was found over there. And lots of the artifacts in the cave disappeared, including Reverend Buckland, back in his little office in Oxford, is said, put that there it is, mammoth skull on his desk. And when he went back the next day, it had disappeared. He felt it'd fallen off and fallen under some boxes, and it was never ever found again. So that sort of gives you an idea of how careless, how irresponsible the archaeology was actually undertaken at Pavland Cave. Now, going back to that sort of an aerial view, well, I'm going to say an aerial view, looking down into the deposits, and it's actually showing that's not how the body looked when it was excavated either. And it's sort of giving you an idea. And when we think about this, and we've got dimensions there, it's 20 meters high, and that's all from the base going all the way to sort of out, and it's basically 7 meters wide, and it's giving you an idea of the space. That's where all of that stuff was found. So, you know, it's not a big space. And, you know, when it was excavated, you know, lots of archaeologists have basically thought, you know, they've based everything on Reverend Buckland's plans. And the problem is, you know, the bones, it's strange the way the bones were said to be organized. And the one warning with archaeology is that you should make up your own minds with what you're seeing, and not sort of read everything that historians tell you. So one of the things is that in archaeology is to be very, very focused on plans, very focused on the evidence of the flint or the evidence of the bones, and try to come up with your own mind. It was only later on that the bones of the supposed Pavland cave man were actually analysed, and we sort of had an idea that that 20% of the diet was fish, and horse, reindeer roots, berries, acorns, and they found lots of shells, and lots of these shells went missing. They found later evidence. They found 4,000 flints, mammoth ivory bracelets, stone needles, necklaces of bone, mammoth skull, obviously the human remains, later evidence as well. Now, that's when I was saying maybe last week, and we mentioned the likes of the amphitheatre at Culzean. I mentioned that, you know, when you're really looking at archaeology, you need all the evidence, even the stuff above. Everything's important, right? And lots of the later stuff was actually discarded and lost, including bits of medieval and Roman pottery. It wasn't important to Reverend Buckland. He was just interested in the skeletal remains. I believe that the human remains come from another cave, which we had actually found red ochre in, and that they had been replaced in there by a certain Miss Talbot in the 1822. We'll never know the true evidence, but there is writing out there, if you can find it, that gives a different story than modern archaeologists tell you about the cave. So go out looking for it. Interesting, that. So the next one is when archaeology is done properly, right, by the modern National Museum of Wales. And this is Pont Newydd Cave. Otherwise, if you want to sort of put the right spelling in and find it on the internet, Pont Newydd, Treiglad Meddwl has changed the P to a B. And when you type in Pont Newydd, you always get the Pont Newydd by Cwmbran. If you type in Bont Newydd, then you get the one in North Wales. Now, it's known by both Pont and Bont, right? But that's not really relevant to what we're doing. But one of the things about this site is that this is, you know, one of three most important, very early prehistoric sites in the whole of Britain, alongside Box Grove on the south coast and also Swanscombe as well. And obviously this has got the classical Neanderthal remains. Now, the excavations here were led 1978 and work's been undertaken since by the National Museum of Wales, initially by the University of Wales in 1978, by Dr. Stephen Alderhouse Green. Now, one thing that we do know, obviously wonderful tools there, wonderful arrowheads and sort of axes and so on, wonderful evidence. But what we do find is that there's evidence from later periods that were also excavated. And one of the key things that we were really interested in, and we had that image earlier on. Oh, there it is. Sorry. By and large, that is the parodontal disease. Now, one thing about Pont Newydd Cave is that the archaeology in there is protected. So, you know, when you go to Pont Newydd, there's actually, they put a little, sort of blocked it off and put a little door on it. And it was actually used as a munition store in the Second World War. But the difference with this cave and Pavlan Cave is another difference. Lots of people like going down to Pavlan Cave, trying to find little trophies, trying to find the odd cowrie shell that was missed by Reverend Buckland. Well, everything's gone from Pavlan Cave now. And I do believe somebody's just joined us. Is that right, Pat? I think they have. I'm just going to double check a moment, just in case. Just going to see what's going on here. Nobody there, Pat? I think he may have tried. Don't worry, Pat. We'll go back to it. We'll go back to where we were. Don't worry, Pat. You haven't done anything wrong. Pat's going to get paranoid now. There's nothing wrong. I thought I heard something, Pat. So the one thing about this cave is that it was done properly. The archaeological work has been done properly. So we're quite clear on, you know, the very early Neanderthal evidence. So the teeth and part of a jawbone from a Neanderthal boy dated back to 230,000 years ago. Again, making it the third set of oldest human remains found in the whole of Britain, the earliest known Neanderthal. And it is very likely that this cave was used for a very long period of time. In fact, we get evidence dating there from 28,000 years ago. And again, when archaeology is done right, we get a decent archaeological picture. So what does this tell us? We know that there are different hominids wandering around Cymru, Wales. We've got some sound, clear evidence that they're actually in this cave. So that's really powerful. And then and obviously we've got the axes and we've got the arrowheads and so on. So the next one that we go to is this one here. This is actually on near the Gower Heritage Park. This is the wonderful site of Cathole Cave. And yes, lots of caves in the area are given names like Tooth Hole Cave, Wolf Hole Cave, you know, yeah, lots of caves have got sort of weird different names. This is a really interesting site, and up until it's my fault, up until around, oh God, I can't remember what year it was. Oh yeah, I know when it was, because I was dating this girl from Swansea way. Yeah, it was 2000 and hang on, I was driving my car. Hang on a minute. 2013, 2012, 2013. Right, it's when I had my driving license. Right, and this cave itself, I visited it and I took some photographs, and there was damage being caused to the cave art, the very delicate cave art in there, and the one thing, the other thing I wanted to put across before we do the other four classes, the other three classes, is that, you know, archaeology needs to be protected. It needs to be kept safe. It needs to be kept for safe future generations. And what somebody tried to do is they tried to go in there, and if we go to the image, somebody tried to hack that off. You can see the lines there. Somebody tried to hack it off. You know, somebody had tried to. And what you can see is a four-legged beast. Some say it was a two-legged beast. Different interpretations of what that cave art actually is, but we're not going to look at the science or what type of animal this was in detail, right? But somebody tried to go in there and try to hack it out. Now, to give you more detail on this, as we're looking at this from Cathole Cave, is that this represents the oldest, you know, cave art ever found, you know, in Britain, and that is really, really important, and is really, really important to protect it. And this was actually excavated, interestingly enough, this was excavated in 1984, but nobody had found the cave art at that point. Nobody knew that there was any cave art in Cathole Cave until it was actually discovered finally. It was discovered finally in the 2000s, right? And it was finally made public in 2012. Now, some people believe it's a two-legged beast. Others believe it's actually an image of a reindeer. And this dates from, amazingly enough, 14,500 years old. And we're able to actually work that out because there was a patina over it. There was actually a patina, and that sort of protected it. But then when somebody tried to hack it out, I basically made the location. Nobody knew where this was in all the caves in the Gower. So I actually made the location public. Cadw went absolutely ballistic with me, and they basically fenced it off. So that means that nobody can go in there and damage it. So I did the right thing. Sometimes in archaeology, you've got to do things rapidly to protect things, and they decided to fence it off. Now, another thing as well is, another reason why this is really, really important is not only does the cave art date back to 14,500 years ago, not only does all the evidence in there sort of really sort of give us a good idea of what early prehistoric Cymru was about, but there's always chance you might find new things. So when it was excavated in 1984, they found evidence dating back to 28,000 years ago. And then it was found by an archaeologist by complete mistake. He looked a little bit deeper in the cave, and he looked up at the ceiling, right? And he thought, oh my God, there's cave art in here. And because he was looking. This is the thing in archaeology. Sometimes when you're looking for things, you can find them. And it's a bit like pottery washing. When you start looking through loads of different artifacts, you can eventually find things, can't you, Ellen? And this is the thing, you need to keep looking out, because sometimes in prehistoric archaeology, there's things that archaeologists haven't found or discovered, and you can always add to the picture. I'll give you another thing that this thing about treasure hunting is not good. Treasure hunting is not just looking for coins and things. Like Pavilan Cave, people are just still going down there trying to find things when they're not going to find anything. There was a little story about Tinkinswood burial chambers that we did last week, and at Tinkinswood burial chamber, I remember I bumped into this guy one day, and he said, he said, he was looking around Tinkinswood burial chamber, and he couldn't work out why there were still human remains in there, and he was picking them out from between the stones, and he sent them to the museum, and they actually finally identified that there were more human remains at Tinkinswood burial chamber. I'm being asked something by Lawrence a minute, so I'm just going to go back to this, and he's saying, Carl, my wife's tablet device won't let me install Zoom. I will try to find something by next week. I definitely shan't be available on Monday the 24th. So we're not going to have Lawrence joining us today, which is a shame.
Aw.
It's a bit of a shame. So hang on, I'm going to say, I know what to tell him, right? Because I know some of you are using your phones. I'm going to say, use your mobile. That's what he can do, isn't it?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
using.
and that's what I'm going to tell him. Let's hear Lawrence now. I'm going to tell him. Sorry about this, guys. And if anyone's watching online, I'm trying to track down somebody who's meant to join us today. So the next site we're going to go on to is actually Pentraven. And there, I can't get hold of him. But okay, there we go, Shane. And we'll just see if we can find another way. A minute, hang on a minute. And you know what? It's not letting me send any messages now. Pain when people can't join. And I'm going to leave a voice message. Hiya, Lawrence. You can use your mobile phone. Download Zoom on mobile. We're still going to be on for about another 25 minutes, so you can still join the last bit. So give it a go. Use your mobile phone device, this one. And you can download Zoom, and you can join a meeting with all those links that you've actually got. So hopefully we've got one person, Pat, waiting to add you on. Take care. Bye. Oh, sorry about this, guys. Use your mobile. Bingo. Right, let's crack on. How many of you have been to this site? Have you been to this site, Pat? She hasn't got a mic on. Have you been to this site, Nina? She hasn't got a mic on.
Yes, I have.
Yes, I have too. I have.
God, there's people out there. Thank you.
We both been there.
Actually, Pat, you've been there, yeah?
Yes, just it was empty. It was just my husband and I all on our own walking around there. It's gorgeous.
Actually, can you keep that thought a minute? I want you to keep that thought a minute. Ellen, have you ever been there?
Oh yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm going to keep that thought of Pat. Right. And this is one thing that I don't mention a lot about. We're here today, right? And there's people watching online as well. We're here today, sort of trying to understand a bit about how important archaeology is with prehistory and sort of those little bits, right? It's starting to come through, right? And this site itself, you've been there and you're there alone, right? But people in the past would have felt the same as well, and they would have felt it even more because there would have been a lot less people around. However, when you turn that around, it's a monument. It's these people in the past. This monument would have been the tallest monument made of stone, standing within the landscape. Obviously, they had houses. Some still had rectangular houses. Lots of people had round houses made of timber. But as a stone structure, this would have stood out, and this would have been seen for miles around. And naturally, it would have been slightly polished, and it would have been gleaming, and it would have shone out across the landscape. And we're not going to show you what this looked like fully, right? But the one thing, and I'm hoping that this is correct. I'm probably going to be choosing to be wrong. But one thing about this monument is that as it sat there, this is never altered. This is always looked like that, right? And one thing that we got from this is the Cadw description of the site. The giant 16.5 foot, 5 meter long capstone appears to be precariously, but I didn't know it was 5 meters long. Did you? I didn't know it was that. I've been there. I can't remember it being 5 meters long. Been there several times. Precariously balanced on 3 uprights, though it has remained in place for, I would say between 6 and 5,500 years. Now that's really interesting. That point there, that it's precariously balanced. It's sort of, it's sort of. It's almost wobbly. If you jumped up and down on it, it's precariously balanced. This site is, and hang on, if we can go with one of the, there we go. It does look very, very odd, very, very odd, and it's at an angle as well, and it almost looks as if it's going to slip off. Now, I was thinking, I'll chuck a bit of a reconstructed image in here, and I just thought I'm not going to do that today. Because lots of this today is for you to sort of make up your own minds, but it would have eventually been classed and used as a burial chamber in its later stages. Those that take part in my other classes would have realised what we said about West Kennet Long Barrow last week, but that bones were placed in there in its later years of use, or not initially with its initial foundation. And it said, it's describing here that human remains have been found at this site. And one of the things that we do know about this site is that the archaeologist Francis Lynch has excavated at this site. And these stones have almost been placed into a pit. Yeah, that's right, a pit. And it's likely that the stones were gently allowed to slip into a pit in the ground, a big pit, right? And then they backfilled the pit. And then obviously the movement of putting the stone on it, which is another class altogether. But one thing that people get obsessed with is, how did they get the stone on top? How did they get the stone on top? The answer is they bloody did, right? And that goes back to Nina and the likes of Ellen. They did do this. They did achieve that. You look at it and you think, oh, how did they do that, right? But they did do it, right? And then what you need to do is put that thought over there, and you need to start asking yourself why, right? Again, what I said last week is never look at what it says on the display panel when you go in there, right? Look at it at the end, right? Take a photograph and just don't even look at it, right? And look at it in the car or whatever, right? But one of the things is always go to these sites armed with what was found there, right? Armed, and try to understand what was found there, right? So if we if we think about Pentre Ifan, and we think about sort of, you know, this sort of archaeological evidence, and, you know, we've got human remains and there are other stones there. And this was, listen, this was the first, one of the first legislatively protected ancient monuments in the whole of Britain in 1882. So this tells you of the importance of this site in a British context, right? In the initial list in 1882, 68 sites in Britain were protected, only 3 in Cymru, Wales, and this was one of them. Well, hey, it's there. So archaeological excavations have taken place at this site, and we know that pottery has been found there. Pottery from West Wales, from the Neolithic period, which might be something, Ellen, that you need to sort of start thinking about without saying too much more. But this site has been excavated several times, and we know that there was this. There's a mound. There's a mound. It would have been a mound around this, and maybe some of the mound sort of hid some of the upright stones. But it's very likely that the capstone would have always been seen, like we see it today, but not balancing in the way today as it may not have been balancing in the past. Now that's a really, really important point to say that. And again, when we go to these sites, it's like taking that idea away and thinking about its connection with us today, and it's still there. So that's the connection. But there is something more powerful than that. And antiquarians talk about these chambers and these capstones and standing stones and the like. And they talk about them in a romantic way. And they paint them and they try to bring them in the modern age. And it's a site that's been visited. And so when you go there, Pat, this has been visited tens of thousands of times, if not hundreds of thousands of times over time. And people have all got a different take on this. But if you base what you understand on this site on the archaeological evidence, you can't go too far wrong. So the next site, and actually what I should be doing is asking one of you what you feel about this site. And what I'm gonna do, I want to do a comparison of people's thoughts now, only 2 of you. So I need to know who's been to Bacloddiad, not Bacloddiad Gareth, Brynchelly Ddu. Who's been to Brynchelly Ddu on Anglesey? Because it's the next site we're going to be doing. Who's been there out of you 3? It's important.
No.
No.
Come on, Pat, you've been there.
No.
God, this little experiment is not going to work. Okay. Okay, because what I wanted to do, I want one of you to say something about the one in North Wales. And I want one of you to say about this one in West Wales, right? So, okay, 2 of you say something about this in West Wales, and it's got to be Nina. Just tell us something about this site and what you felt about it, rather to forget about just what you felt about it, what you feel about it, what just look at it, forget about what you've read, forget about, just chuck in what your penneth in now quickly. And whoever else online, you chuck a penneth in online as well. Go for it, Nina.
Oh, I'm just looking at the picture where you've got the, is it Carningley behind it, the way it sort of matches up with that. So I just never looked at that before. So I just wondered if that was something.
No, we're going to alter the image.
Oh,
No.
all right.
The reason why I altered the image, you were focusing on something else, right? Look
Oh.
at this.
Yeah, but they may have done it in accordance to the landscape.
Oh, you're coming back at me. I like it. You're coming back. I want you to come back at me. Right. So you want me to go back to that again? Right, I'm glad you're defending
Well, I've
yourself. Go,
Never
go for
looked
Nina.
at it like that before, and it just matches, and you just wonder, well, they may have done that on purpose. That was all.
Okay, that's a great contribution, and you fought me back there. I'm liking it. Right. Okay, Ellen, let's have you.
Well, I can't see Pentrefan the same anymore after my daughter, in her art A-level project, used Pentrefan as her subject and in different perspectives of it. So she did all these different kinds of drawings, multicolored drawings, you know, like purple stones on a like a green sky and things. And there's something really lovely about Pentrefan that I can see through her images.
So what you do, you put some mystery into the site. So she put some mystery into the site. So in other words, what you said, you've been influenced by something else that none of us have been influenced by. Right, take that away. Right, get back into the hat. Anything else?
Oh, I just think it's wonderful. It really does. The hairs on the back of my neck, whenever I'm down there, it's just the hairs on the back of my neck is just amazing. And that massive slab on top, I'm just thinking, wow.
Can you think of can you think of oh wow, but they did it.
Yes.
Oh well. Oh right.
Yeah.
Now they did it. They did it.
Yeah, they've
Right.
did it. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you know, they didn't have cranes and things, but I have a good idea how they did it.
Right.
But the
Right.
manpower to do it was amazing, to have like, teamwork back at that time.
Right. Move that a bit further forward. Right. Move that a bit further forward. Right. Why did they need to do it? Right. Forget about all that. Why did they need to do it? The need. What's the need?
I would think it's, well, in my feeling, it's like connection with the earth and then to a
Now,
higher purpose as well.
we're liking those words. That's great. We'll leave that there. Thanks for your contribution, everybody. I'm just going to pick on. I'm going to pick on Pat now because on another angle, right? Because Pat hasn't had her say, right? So now this site itself is Barcloddiad Agaris, and you can immediately see there that there's modern stuff in there, right? Which I hate, but you're looking at that, right? And I'm hoping that Pat's channeling something here. I'm channeling to you the answer of the next question, right? Which I'm going to ask you now. What does that remind you of? What are you thinking when you're looking at that? Quick chucker at me now. Come on. Does that look familiar?
Somewhere I've been, I think.
Yeah, come on.
In the Orkneys.
Yeah. You've nailed it. Yes.
Mice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you have. Mice, how you have nailed it. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, you know, this is well, we channeled that really worked there. It really did. So this site itself is a very, very odd site. And it's because of the way it's been presented and the way it's sort of, in a way you go there and you think everything's like as it should be, right? But one of the stones has been taken away and it's been replaced by a concrete stone because of the markings on one of the stones. I hate that. But then again, you know, some things need to go into museums, right? So, okay, right. But nobody tells you these things, which I hate. You know, just tell us what's real and what's not, please. It's like being in a relationship. My God, you're seeing somebody else. I wish you'd told me, then I'd have left you. But the fact of the matter is, you really want to know the facts with these sites. And this is why I said about Pentrefan, and this is why we went to a nice little bit of detail about it, because I felt it's sort of trying to get people connected with these monuments and the importance of these monuments and the importance to know what's what, right? And you know, this you know, this is in the care of Cadw. It is one of their Neolithic scheduled centerpieces of Cadw. They're really proud of this. And one of the things is, actually, one of the biggest things is that thing inside. It's not supporting anything. There's a pillar inside. It's the presence of a mysterious pillar within the burial chamber, and it's an odd stone. It's a really, really odd stone. And again, look that up. Look up the mysterious pillar. You need to look at the mysterious pillar. Now, you know, this itself has been described, and people have discussed this since the 1700s, 1796. They've sort of discussed this. People have visited this site. There have been, alas, when people see like that, I want to dig it. I want to get my shovel and spade out. I want to get my pottery washer Ellen along to wash all the pots. You know, we want to do it, want to get there, right? But this is the problem with sites like this. They've drawn people in, and then people have dug there. It's known as a passage tomb. It's got a little bit of a passage and a little bit of a chamber. Actually, we can see that there. Passage leading, and then you've got a little bit of a chamber, and there's little spirals and all sorts of things on the wall in there. And you know, the site of the pillar stone, you know, this is really, really odd. But it might be that lots of these stones themselves might not be contemporary, right? It said that in a description from 1908, Bryn Cethlu D, one of the writers said, was told how the passage tomb had been discovered a generation before by a farmer looking for useful stone. So, and the site of the pillar stone has unnerved people. You know, in there, people have thought it's a really, really odd stone. What is it doing there? And there's patterns on it as well. Now, the original has been moved to the National Museum of Wales, and there's a replica. That's actually a replica. Now, going back to sort of some of the archaeology and some of the other links with this site, is that when people visit this site, it's always that obsession that it's got something to do with alignments, like the summer solstice, or this one is associated with the winter solstice. And guess what, Pat? Guess what site on Orkney is also associated with the winter solstice? Mice bloody how.
Yeah.
So it's very odd, that, isn't it? We got two sites that you mentioned. This is associated with the same as the winter solstice on Orkney, Mice How, and also Newgrange similarly. And the one thing that we feel about this site, and the one thing that we see about this site is that sometimes when people think about solstices, they immediately sort of get obsessed by them. You know, we're going to go there at the winter solstice and get really bloody freezing cold and run around the stone naked and all the rest of it. And sometimes that spoils the experience at Stonehenge, when people just think of Stonehenge as the summer solstice. There's a lot more to these monuments, and actually there's a ring of stones around it, and there's a ditch around it, and there's the mound itself, again similar to Mice How. And again, our minds in archaeology, we like to go off, and we like to think, is this anything? You know, what you know, they think, well, you know, people go off into sort of weird fairy stories and so on. And you know, when we think of this, we've got to think of there is stonework inside, right? You know, there is stonework inside. There's a ring of stones around the outside, and then they've dug a ditch, and They've covered the chamber inside, so this is clearly covered, and there's lots of carved stones around there. It's likely that on the backs of those carved stones there's not stones there. Some of those stones are carved. On the backs of those upright stones there's likely lots of carvings on the backs of them that we don't know about. And so this is really, really important, and it's trying to make sense of a site. This site was used over a very, very long period of time. And one of the things that we as archaeologists are trying to do is try to make you see these sites within a wider context and a wider importance. And the wider importance is that people created this monument, and it would have had no links with Orkney, but people have sat down one day and thought, well, oh God, I want to develop something like this that happened to be very similar to the way they developed the site in Orkney. Actually, there's a huge difference between this site and the one in Orkney. The chamber is actually square, and it's got a corbelled roof, and a very specific corbelled roof, and it's got a passage made from long lengths of standing stones on the floor, on the side, and it's a long sort of chamber in there. So that's why Mice Howe is very different. Circular is the way you do things. Dig a ditch around the outside, create a mound. That's what you do. And so many similarities, but again, it's how the human mind thinks. It's called determinism, where different human beings at different times on the same times on the planet think of the same idea, and they build things similarly. Best thing, loads of different pyramids around the world. Pyramids in Mesopotamian Delta, pyramids in Egypt, pyramids in Central America. They were all built slightly at different times, built by completely different people with no links. And this is why people talk about aliens. They got to be built by aliens and stuff. But what we do know is that people decided that building a square and a smaller square on top of a square and a smaller stair on a stair, and sort of clad in the outside, that was the best way to do things at different places at different times in the world. There's inevitably no links between these things, and that's how people wanted to do them. And the other thing as well is the other point on what I want to make before we do the last thing, because we've done a full hour now. They built this. They did it. Like they cave art in there. They did cave art, right? And like they built this. But lots of these things were built over a long period of time and within a landscape of multiple uses and change. And this is one mound of chamber of probably a number that once existed, and most are now gone. Oh, and one thing, before they started doing reconstruction work with this, you can actually find stone chambers in North Wales that are just that, stone chambers that haven't been reconstructed. Happy days. That's where I like to see it, in the buff, in the raw. And very similar when we sort of hack out some of the later render and painting inside medieval churches, and we actually get beautiful medieval frescoes underneath, and believing and aspiring to appreciate the archaeology for as it is, rather than changing it and altering it. But moving on, sideline. So that's more or less the end of class 2. And what I'd like to mention is this site. Now, this site itself, we did see an image of this last week. I like this site because I made a little film up there, and we entered the film into a we entered it into a film festival, actually, but we didn't get anywhere with it. But this site, I really like this site, and it's a site that was massive and big. You can see it's huge in the Iron Age, and if not earlier, but it had a role to play in the Roman era. And when we look at the Roman era, what we do we look at the Roman era from the point of view that lives carrying on, not being affected by Roman administrators, Roman military, like they carried on with this site. So prehistory going into the Roman period. And anyone else watching this is thinking, oh my God, you know, that was a bit of a weird class. But what I wanted to do, sort of give you some important things, sort of important sort of timelines within Cymru, Wales. In Wales, we don't have many causewayed enclosures like they do in England in the Neolithic period. We don't have many, much in the way of, we do have stone circles in Cymru, Wales, but we don't have really many, really massive, important ones. Like, that's sort of, they've been altered and changed, unlike lots of the ones over the border. So we couldn't really look at many of those examples. So I wanted to show you things that actually stuck out, and that's what we've done. So what we are going to do now is we're going to find out if we've got any questions, and that's where we're going to go. Oh, and you know what I'm going to do today, right? I'm going to boil, right, some of the cabbage that I've grown, and I've got so much cabbage that I've got to use it up quick. So I'm going to boil some of my own cabbage, which I've grown. Brilliant. Looking forward to it. And in the next few months, I'll have beetroot and sweet corn, and also some other weird thing that I can't remember the name of, but that's life. Anyway, I don't even know I got onto that. Right, okay, so talking about what I'm going to do after this class. Right, so let's see if there's any questions, and what we're going to go, and voodoo there. Okay, and I hope you're enjoying these sessions anyway, so roll on next week. It's a shame the men have let us down, haven't they? Dirty Rog is back next week, so that's good. Hopefully we'll get Lawrence next week, and hopefully that won't interfere with things. And obviously, you know, these were 5 one-off classes, and that's how they're meant to be. But if you guys think as a group, oh, we would like to do a couple more, you know, then it's up to you. But we're not going to talk about that now. We're not doing that now. This is a one-off. So what we're going to do, Pat, is there any questions?
That last site, what did they use it for? What was that? You know, the Romans or the Iron Age people?
Do I give it away? Yeah, let's give you a little bit of information. That's Traiceri on the Llyn Peninsula. And when I went to Traiceri, I didn't expect it to be like that. I actually had I think I've got it here. Hang on a minute. Have I got it here? Oh, yes, I do. I do. I got a book. Another book there. I got a book for bought a book for somebody, and I ended up keeping it. And in this book, there's some beautiful illustrations of archaeological sites across Cymru, Wales. And I saw Traiceri in it, and I thought, I've got to do that, and we got to visit that. And I can't find it in this book, but I saw it in here, and I thought I've got to go and see that. And it was initially an Iron Age site, and there was lots of buildings, stone-built buildings. And what we do find is evidence from the Roman period there as well, actually trade evidence. So that's why I mentioned it. That's why I wanted to do it. So we've got lots of trade evidence there, and I'm just going to see if I can find that image. Where is it? Oh God, it's here somewhere. God, I've lost it. Damn it, I've lost it. But yeah, I was really sort of, I really great, and it was multiple period use. So that's why we're doing it next week.
Okay.
It's a site that's really important in the. Oh, here we go. Look at this. This is. Hang on. Hang on, mate. Get that bloody thing off there so you can see it.
Who are those men?
Oh yeah, they're just in the background to make sure they're from YouTube to make sure I don't say any racist stuff. You know, yes, right, okay. So look at that there. Look at those. Aerial view. All these buildings there. There's just loads of them. Iron Age buildings. built into the used in the Roman period. And when I say used in the Roman period, people continued living in the Roman period as native Britons. And look at that, another aerial view. So I was fascinated. I had to visit it. And yeah, it's for me, it's one of the biggest sort of defended. And there's a stone wall around it as well. They made the effort of building a stone wall around it. So great stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Great stuff. I'm glad I answered that one. Right. So there's no questions online. So let's have any from Nina.
Oh, I've got nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay. So don't worry about it, man. It's all good. It's all good for the custard. That's what I should have. I put my order in for Tesco's, right? Because weirdly enough, right, there's no Tesco's around here, but they deliver. But the Co-op and Sainsbury's don't. Helen, quickly. Oh, by the way, there's a woman from Fellinvach who delivers milk. So
Yes,
Helen, go on.
right. You used the term when people were building the same sort of things at the same time, or all over the place, or at a different time, but there was
Determinism. Basically, there's two. Right. Basically, I'll give you some archaeological terms. Right. What we're going to do? Get your pens out, guys. Let's do some archaeological terms, and we're going to share the share board. Right. Here we go. Share the share board. Right. So basically, it's called. My spelling's going to be bad, but you'll get the idea. It's called determinism. Right. Basically, determinism, right, is when, for example, Ellen, right, this is a good one, right? We put you in the middle of a woodland with nothing other than a penknife, right? So the only thing that you've got, right, is some basic knowledge of the trees, right, and water, right, and you've got to survive. Within 5 years, you've built a house, and you've built a little temple at the end of the garden to thank Mother Nature. That's called determinism, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So as opposite to determinism, right? Hang on a minute, is something known as diffusionism, right? And diffusionism is where everything comes from somewhere, right? Like humanity evolved from Africa, right? Well, there's lots of archaeologists like me now believe that there are other parts of the world that evolved hominids, like Denisovians, like other types of hominids, other types of Homo erectus in East Asia, and that's called determinism. But when you say diffusionism, human beings evolved just out of Africa. In other words, we evolved from one single human being out of Africa. That's called diffusionism, which I do not agree with. And in other words, pyramids, diffusionists believe that the idea of building pyramids came from Egypt, and they managed to sail a ship all the way to Central America. Well, unfortunately, if they sailed the ship to Central America with the idea of building pyramids, that would have meant that it took them about 3,000 years to sail to Africa. Not Africa, Central America. So they sailed from Egypt, Africa, all the way to Central America to tell them how to build pyramids 3,000 years after the last pyramid was built. That's called diffusionism, which in other words, as a theory, doesn't work, right? And then what I'm going to do, as we're doing words now, we're going to do also another one, right? We're going to, in archaeology, occasionally use the word post-processionalism, okay? Post-processionalism on the end. what post-processionalism is basically the idea of archaeologists going outside the box as we do in classes. In other words, you know, we push the boat out and we sort of think, you know, let's think of archaeology. You've been post-processionalist all night, guys. So that's good. You've been thinking post-processionalism, right? And two other terms, right? There's something known as post terminus quem, right? And what post terminus quem means is that when you're excavating an archaeological site and you, for example, find a piece of Roman pottery on the floor level, right? That means that the post terminus quem, the earliest date for that site on that level, is Roman, right? Because there's no other evidence below that. As you're getting down to that site, as you're getting down to the archaeology, right? There's another word, terminus ante quem, right? Which basically means that as you're getting down to the Roman layer, the piece of Roman pottery, right? Above that is a coin which is dated to about 400 years AD, right? And there's nothing above that. There's no other evidence that. So the terminus ante quem date, the latest possible date that anyone lived at that site was about AD 400, except coins can vary in date. But those are 5 terms for you. And hopefully you've written them all down. I'll test you on them all next week. You're going to get an exam on this next week, guys. Sorry. It's known as those 5 words, right? I'm going to ask you one of those words. So if Pat don't turn up next week, it's because she's forgotten one of the words. And if Nina can't accidentally use her mic, it means that she's forgotten the words. Right. Anyway, don't worry about it. Any other questions? So we've asked Ellen and Pat and Nina. Anything else anyone would like to say? Oh, and there's also Elise O'Leary, who's one of my big fans on YouTube. She says she's got no questions. Really enjoyed the presentation and information. Thank you, Elise. And glad to have you back. And glad to have you back from being ill. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to say I'll see you soon, Ellen. Pat, I will see you on Tuesday night. Nina, I'll see you next Monday. And if you would like to see the little chick, right? It stays under my armpits in the lectures, right? And there it is.
Oh.
So, you know, one thing I'm really paranoid with is like having it out and then I'm stepping on it and I would be absolutely devastated, because that's Baldrick's son, and we've got to make sure that we Ellen, right? I chucked him under Baldrick's wing and talked to Baldrick, and he stays there.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh, there you go. Get some water then. You're singing on. Right, Baldrick's in bed. Right, okay then. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call that a day now. And oh yeah, and Elise has mentioned one last thing, guys. A possible odd observation. I've been trying to look at things from an ancestral memory perspective, which works well with determinism, I believe. So again, determinism, right, where we determine our development as humans rather than diffusionist. And that's a good example where we think ancestrally. And one thing I would finally say, just one final point, is where I am, it's very difficult to see an early landscape that's ancestral, except when you start looking at some creatures. You get moles living in the middle of a field, right? And you're starting to think, well, those moles survived everything, including removing of hedges. They managed to survive, right? It's moles that give you an idea that this place was once wooded, because moles originally lived in woods. That's a little fact. So we see the little moles and also bloody wasps living in archaeological helmets. Yeah. You can see the Gary video, Gary moving the wasps. On that note, if nobody else got anything else to say, I'm going to thank you for joining me tonight. And nothing else, Nina. We're going to say good night, Nina, Pat, and wonderful Ellen. And we'll see you all soon. Take care. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care,
Bye.
guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 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 No, 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 Ellen.
Bye.
I got donuts coming tomorrow as well. 5 of them. You get 5 donuts from Tesco's, not 4.
Ooh.
And
Right.
you get 5 donuts from Tesco and not 20. Oh, Christ, that's more, isn't it? I prefer the 20 from the co-op. Sorry.
Yeah, they're only strawberry though.
Yeah,
The
that's
chocolate
true.
is different.
Yeah, I can cope with the chocolate. Yeah, basically, this one's gonna have its last egg tonight.
He's so cute. He's grown again since Friday.
I bloody hope so. I really need him to be double size. Are you sure he's grown again?
Yes,
Oh,
he has,
please.
because his face and yeah, he's definitely grown again. When shall I come up this week? It'll have to be in the evenings.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Right. Probably. Oh God. Sugar. Today would have been the best option.
You've got a class tonight.
Yeah, Thursday. I'm just thinking. When you say the evening, what time?
Well, tonight Gary didn't come home until 6:30.
Oh,
So
Wednesday,
I think from
Saturday.
7 onwards.
What about Saturday evening?
Oh yeah, Saturday evening we should be fine.
Okay, Saturday evening. All right then. Say 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, I'll speak to you then.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, you got to bring some donuts along.
Oh, you'd have finished the ones you're getting from Tesco.
I'll have finished them. You know, I'm not. You know, I'm not supposed to be having donuts, but the odd 5 now and again won't do me much now. Anyway, I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, you take care.
Take care, Ellen. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. No night,
Bye.
Ellen. No night.
Bye.
No night. Bye. And we've got somebody else online. His legs definitely look bigger. Baldrick Minor. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. Like, oh, there's little Baldrick. Oh God. Anyway, we've got 5 people online now, so it's been great having everybody taking part on my Monday evening class. So those that want to take part in, you know, right. If you want to sign in next Monday at oh God, let me get this right. 7 o'clock, we do the looking at the archaeological meanings for sort of 5 sort of eras. So we've done the first 2. Next week we're going to be looking at Roman era Cymru Wales, and we'll be looking at sites that are just native, like a site on Anglesey. And we'll be looking at a roundhouse site on Anglesey that continued with not much change. Tri-Carry we'll be looking at next week on the Llyn Peninsula. So those 2 sites in North Wales. And then what we can do is look at Dinas Powys settlement, which is an odd one. So that's in South Wales. So we'll be looking at that as well. And what I'm going to do is grab a couple of other examples where we've got continuous sort of not much change. There is change. Obviously, if there's a guy down the road, he's got, you know, shiny coins and got a nice little bit of pottery, you want a bit of that, won't you? You know. But obviously sites that haven't been completely dominated, like sort of the Aberystwyth Roman Villa, or a site like Glyn, for example. Or anyone interested in the Roman era, you can, the Roman era Britain, I'm going to put a link on, which is, if you're interested, you can get a copy of my book, or one of my books, Romans in South Wales. And you can, if you contact me via email, I will send you the payment link for my book, Romans in South Wales, and that sort of gives you some background era information about this sort of Roman era, sort of continuous things continuing without any sort of much influence from the Romans. So what I could do is, don't forget all of you guys to like, subscribe, and press the bell so you can get these notifications. Classes on Tuesday as well, 7:40ish. Wednesday on 7:20ish. I know Monsoir and Elise would like to know that, and obviously Jordan as well, and lots of other people. Anyway, thanks for your continued support. And if you've noticed, I do like a question of the day. And if you've got any questions of the day you'd like me to cover in archaeology, 15 seconds, that's the algorithm for YouTube. Let me know. That's it now. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much. I'm going to say good night. Night, Nosta. And one last thing, if you join, again, heavy sales, contribution, you get a little bit more content, and you help me pay some bills and also pay for food for this little one. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to look at the chat box while I'm waiting for any feedback. Nothing in the chat box on 1, 2, 3. Nothing in the chat box. But I'm going to say good night. Night, everybody. Night, Elise, François, Jordan, and everybody else. Thank you. Night. Arrivederci, or that's the way it is. Thank you very much.